Would you believe me if I told you that a whole construction project can be stopped by a tiny creature? Let me tell you about it. In Mono Lake, there is this specific type of brine shrimp known simply as the Mono Lake brine shrimp. Mono Lake is a lake, obviously, in California, and you guessed it, Mono County. Now, the Mono Lake brine are quite a rare species of brine shrimp. They can only be found in Mono Lake. They are only found in Mono Lake. And if you find them anywhere else, you must immediately take them back to Mono Lake. Their scientific name is Artemia monica, and as said before, they only live in Mono Lake. The Artemia monica acts as the main food source for all living creatures in that area. It is their main food source. They are very important to the survival of the lake as they provide life for all the plants, creatures, and animals around, seeing as everything that lives in that lake eats them. The Mono Lake Committee describes them as the main contributors to Mono Lake's ecological importance, even on a global scale. During the warmer seasons, birds tend to migrate towards a warmer area, and Mono Lake is a huge stop for them. It's critical that the shrimp are there so the birds may eat them and have good rest time so they can continue their migration. Now, let's talk about the brine shrimp, shall we? They are these tiny creatures, about the size of your thumbnail. But since there are so many of the lake, they are able to form thick brown ribbons and underwater plumes you can even see from the sky. The life cycle of the brine shrimp is tied to season and water temperature. They start off as little cysts in colder, less warm environments, and then when the water finally gets warm, the cysts start to break and hatch. In order for the shrimp to be considered adults, they must molt their exoskeleton several times. That's pretty much it. They're not the most exciting creature out there, but they are critical to the survival of the Mono Lake. They are critical to the survival of all the creatures living inside that area. It is important for them to be around because if they are not, then a main food source is taken away from all the creatures living there and they will die off. Now, recently, the Mono Lake shrimp has become more and more abundant. They are starting to make a comeback, but in 2012 they were described as endangered. So it was critical that if you were to find mono brine shrimp, you return them to the Mono Basin immediately to get them back into the lake. Now, let's talk about what piqued your interest in the beginning of this speech. There have been a few instances of mono brine shrimp stopping construction projects because it is important that you move them first before you continue. It is extremely rare to find them outside of the lake. So if you do, you have to report it immediately to the Mono Committee so they can extract them safely and transport them back to the lake. An example of this would be there was a construction project at a middle school remodeling the field, but they had to fence off a certain part because they had to extract all the mono brine shrimp out of it in order for them to continue. That's how important and serious these people take these shrimp. It's not some delicacy you can always eat. Sometimes it's for the wildlife out there. As said before, recently mono brine shrimp have been on the come up, so it's not as important for you to move them. But the Mono Committee still asks that you report any incidents of finding mono shrimp immediately, and that you try to take care of them as best you can until they are safely extracted and moved back to the lake. This helps provide more food for the animals in Mono County, letting that land live lavishly. Now, these brine shrimp may not have any unique features, but they are important and they are critical to the survival of the lake. It is important that they remain there and safely live happily ever after. Thank you for listening.